2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us. How do I know when it's time to rebuild trust or say that it's enough? Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
That's a great question. I got a great question for you, Tyler. What's it going to take to get you out on my boat to do a little fishing?
Hey, I'll make a point to get down there.
Get you to take a day of work off and do a little fishing.
Oh man, you know I'm a workaholic, but I'll find a way to get down there, get my kids down there, and actually show you guys what it's like to catch fish.
Yeah. I really need your help.
I will be down. I'm actually really excited about it. This is the best kind of like situation for me because you always want to be friends with the guy who owns the boat. You never want to really own the boat.
That's true.
So
that is.
So we'll come down and we'll be happy to come down and use your stuff.
I've been on both sides of that, and you're right. So, yeah. All right, Beth, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, if you could give us just a little bit of background and tell us what's going on, and then ask your question.
We have been married for almost 10 years. This October will be 10 years. And we've gone to counseling. We've had some betrayal. It was, I found the text messages and the pictures and stuff that were being exchanged on my husband's phone. And I had to be the one that confronted him with it. And of course he was sorry, but we never really, it just kind of got swept under the rug. And, he said sorry a few times in our marriage, and that was one time that he did. But, so for me, I've thought that I was over those incidents, but I get triggered really easily by if I see him on his phone and I'm like, oh, who's he texting, or what is he doing? Or at odd times at night, whenever I think like, why would you be texting someone right now? Whenever I'm busy doing things around the house or, and so, that's been a question of mine. How do you rebuild the trust? Because I'm not sure that I mean, he told me a few months ago, well, I'll give you my password. You can go through my phone at any time. And I'm like, I don't want to be the snoopervisor where I'm just snooping around and trying to figure out what he's doing all the time. So I just don't really know how you rebuild that trust.
Tyler, you want to start?
Yeah, great question, Beth. So I think this question sometimes comes through, and it's really frustrating because the person asking the question actually really does want to rebuild trust.
Right.
But in some ways, they feel kind of helpless to rebuild trust because trust has to come in some certain forms that they don't have control over. Right. So the question is do I stay and work on trust, or do I actually, when do I know when to like cut ties and say, hey, it's time to move on? A lot of that depends on the situation that you find yourself in and whether or not certain aspects are actually present. Mm-hmm. So if I were to ask you, Beth, like this is kind of a big, broad question, but like what does it mean to rebuild trust? How is trust rebuilt?
Well, I would like honesty. I mean, that's the first thing, and openness. I think that some of the behaviors have continued. Right now, he has a court pending case, which has been just a really devastating thing for me. And I was really angry in the beginning. He put a camera in my daughter's bathroom, and he was recording her. And he denies he says he was trying to prove to me that she was doing things that she shouldn't have been doing. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but what if he was really intending to watch her showering? I just cannot move through that because I feel like that there's not been honesty. And I've invited him to go to counseling. I think I've heard you guys say you give him the invitation, and I have done that. I'm in counseling myself because I went through a really, really hard time of a lot of just sadness and depression. So that's getting better, but I have asked him multiple times, and I really felt like there was a time in the past few months. This happened last July, so it's been now almost, we're close to a year. There have been times whenever I was just like, if the roles were reversed, I would want to say to him, I'll go with you to counseling just to make sure you're okay through all of this. But he's not willing to do that. So I think an honesty would be the first thing that I would really want for trust. And really to be open with me and communicate more.
So Beth, there's what you just mentioned are two really important, good things. But I want to ask you this. Why do you trust the chair that you're sitting on right now? Like why do you trust it to not just crumble, and why do you trust it to hold you up?
I sit in it every day.
Okay, that's a good answer. So there's consistency there. You know it, and you know it well. Okay.
Okay.
That chair, if that chair were made of Jell-O, would you sit in it?
No.
No. So that chair has integrity. Yes. Integrity is the key ingredient for trust. And so the honesty and the openness show somebody's integrity. The lack thereof shows somebody's, the lack of honesty and openness and consistency shows somebody's lack of integrity. And so your question is really interesting because it's, how do we rebuild trust? Well, the ingredients have to be there in order for the trust process to start to really rebuild. And if the ingredients aren't there, it's like trying to build a house out of sand and not concrete, so to speak. And so, and back to Tyler's point, a lot of this puts you in a tough position because you do not have the ability to make him be an integrous human being. Only he does. And so it puts you in a position of watch and see. And that's what trust is all about, is that vulnerability, is that we're in a relationship and you could hurt me. I'm vulnerable to that.
Right.
But I trust that you're not going to. And that's what a relationship's all about. So you can't do it all on your own. It's impossible.
Brandon,
but I'm hearing a lack of integrity with what you're talking about with your husband. Go ahead.
No, that's good. You're going that direction. So I'm sorry I cut you off, but first and foremost, I love the use of the word integrous. You may have just come up with your own word there. I'm not sure, but
that's a word. It's a real word.
Integrous. Well, we all know what you're saying, and it probably is a real word. I like it, but where I think you're going here, Brandon, is that Beth, you actually mentioned if we were to kind of craft a recipe for rebuilding trust, I think you actually nailed the first two ingredients. The first ingredient is, you said honesty. The trick is you don't know honesty from dishonesty because that's what lying is about, right? You said openness. And I would say there's a couple of others here. Those two are excellent. There's humility. So if there's humility, which is an acceptance of my weaknesses and my strengths and a willingness to work on those things. And there's openness, which means I'm no longer hiding. I'm no longer, shrinking away or disappearing or trying to cover things up. And then the last ingredient has a whole bunch of other smaller ingredients under it, which is, and this is where Brandon's going, work, consistent action and effort over time. And what does that work look like? Like, what is the work that would be the consistent action and effort over time? It would be, okay, he came to you and he said, hey, here, you can have the passwords to my phone. I would say, even though you're not going to take that because you don't want to be the snoopervisor, another great word.
Snoopervisor.
Yeah, she said snoopervisor.
Wow. I like it. I'm gonna use that one. That's as good as Afterbait.
Yeah. So the fact that he's coming to you and saying, hey, I'm willing to be open with this stuff if that would be helpful to you, that's a step in the right direction, even though you probably won't do that one, right? But that's one step, and there needs to be several other steps, which would be, I'm trying to figure out how to make amends for things. I'm figuring out how to take accountability. Like, if what I'm hearing from what you said, he's still hasn't fully taken accountability for this most recent thing because he's saying, oh, it was in our best interest. I was going to go do the police work without telling you and happen to just have a camera in our daughter's bathroom for our good. And it's like, wait a minute, hold on a minute. Like, that's, well,
Tyler, I want to ask you for if you got caught with filming your daughters showering I hate to even say that, right? Like, but if you got caught doing that and you got caught doing that and you got a pending court case, you got a legal charge for it, what would your response be? Like, what would you do?
Well, that's a good question, Brandon. I think the human element of me or anybody else would be, do what you can to minimize the damage, cover things up, make sure you pay the least amount of consequence because there's so much shame wrapped up in it.
But I'm not asking. I'm asking what a man with integrity would do.
Well, that's the thing is that a lot of times in these legal situations, the right answer for recovery is the wrong answer legally, and the right answer, the right answer for recovery is,
which sucks. The system doesn't work sometimes.
The system's a hard thing to navigate sometimes, but the true thing is that your heart always has to be at peace, which comes back to the word integrity, which means take full ownership for your behaviors, for your actions, take accountability for that, including all of the consequences that are going to come with it, set your heart free so that you can have a clear conscience. There's no better feeling in the world than a clear conscience to sleep on at night. And then you can start to move your life forward. And if you don't do those things, you will stay stuck trying to kick against the pricks, so to speak, because you will never have quite straightened your life up yet. So accountability is the first thing, full accountability and a willingness to make amends. That's the answer, Brandon.
Yeah. Now, Beth, I want to ask you, is there a possibility that that camera was in there because he was being a good father and trying to help?
Well, she's my daughter. It's his stepdaughter.
Okay.
And I want to believe that no one wants to believe that this has happened in their family or that their husband is capable. And in the beginning, I really tried that scenario. But I just go back to, there's a lot of holes and missing information in the story. And what he says, she was having sex in our bedroom whenever we weren't home. So my first question was, why didn't you set the camera up in our bedroom upstairs if that's what you were trying to prove? So over time, and the more that we haven't even talked about this since January, because he just was so angry with me that he was like, let's just not talk about it anymore. And I said, okay. So we now are just not, we're living in the same house and sleeping in the same bed. And we have this huge elephant that we're trying to eat on, but we're just not going to talk about it anymore. And I'm like, it's just not.
So Beth, the easy thing to do, and this is backwards. The easy thing to do is to protect him.
Right.
By believing him, by, okay, yeah, like you were okay, I'll just go along with that. And you know what that does? That throws your daughter under the bus, right? And so, and this is a classic case of this happens with abuse all the time, where it's I want to believe the abuser and keep putting the abused in harm's way because it's too hard to face the reality of what actually happened. And I really appreciate what you're saying, because what I hear you saying is, I am facing the reality that this was not about him protecting her. Right. Putting a camera in your daughter's bathroom is about him acting out.
Right.
And you got to fight for your daughter's safety first and foremost before we even talk about trust with your husband and rebuilding that trust.
Beth, what's the emotion that's coming up inside of you right now? What's showing up right now?
This has been hard for her and for myself. She's away at college, so and there's a
does she know this
Oh yeah,
happened?
there's a restraining order.
She knows. Okay.
So we've had to, I've never had to do any sort of police, anything with the police, go to court, anything like that. Well, I went to court for my first divorce, but so the criminal system's very new to me, and it was really shocking. And the way that I was told and presented with the information, we were actually together and pulled into our driveway, and the police met us there. So it was, and my daughter had already knew.
Did you call the police on him?
My daughter did.
The
camera was found by some people working on our house, and I think in the beginning I was just so in shock and I didn't know what to think, and I was really in denial about it. And then as the months have gone on and I've gone through counseling and I've done a lot of journaling and work, and I've listened to you guys a lot, and that's really helped me to understand addiction and betrayal and what happens in the cycle and that kind of thing. And so, but yeah, it's just a real sadness. I feel really hurt by her. There's also another girl involved. And so I had to tell her parents, I'm really sorry this happened in my home to your child. I had my own sexual trauma. And so that's been something, he knew. And how much I really tried to protect my own kids from that in the world. And, by not letting them go to people's house I wasn't really comfortable with and spending the night and that kind of thing. And then it happened in my own home. And so it's just been devastating for me, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you're willing to say that and share that out loud. When Brandon asked you the question, is it possible that he had the best interest in mind? Your body language said something different than your words did. Your body language knows what it knows.
Yeah.
And to be able to sit with the hard reality of things as they are is a really brutal, painful place to be, but it's a necessary place to be in order to be able to move forward without continuing to be stuck in this perpetual cycle of things as they have been. And so the fact that you're owning it and seeing it and speaking it is really important.
But Beth, I also want you to understand this is what he did is not your fault.
Right.
And like you say, you've had your own trauma and you vowed to never, let things like this happen in your home. This is not your fault. Now, going forward, you have some hard decisions. You're put in a very unfair position. You have some hard decisions to make to really fight for for justice and freedom and for your daughter and her healing. And so you have some hard decisions to make because it puts you right in the middle. You're married to the other person.
Right.
Right. And so you do have that opportunity now to step into those hard things or to wither away. And it seems like you, like Tyler was saying, it seems like you really are willing to do whatever it's going to take to make sure that you fight for healing, right? But you've got to make sure this is critical. You've got to make sure that you are totally out of denial in order to do that, because there's going to be a part of you that's going to talk you out of things and justify this or rationalize this around that, because the reality is so painful and so hard.
Can I ask you, Beth, how much trust is being rebuilt right now by having your husband be mad at you to the point that you don't talk about it?
None.
Okay. So the question is, when do I try to rebuild trust, and when do I try to make decisions to go a different direction?
Right.
The part of that decision comes, obviously, we always say this on the podcast, it always comes through your own personal wrestle with God, and a place when you come to peace of knowing the right decision for yourself. But part of the way to get there is to look at some of that recipe we were talking about earlier and saying, just try this on for a second. Okay, Beth, two different scenarios. Let's rebuild trust. Okay. First scenario. That was in the past. I promise to never do it again. Don't ever bring it up because it hurts my feelings and it makes me feel terrible. So we just won't talk about it again. But I promise nothing will happen anymore. That's scenario one.
Look,
you can still have passwords to my phone, even though we just don't want to talk about it anymore.
And it's usually the angry, here, you can look at my phone, and not a
twist my arm. Here, my arm's twisted, Uncle. Okay, I'll tell you.
I'm a
victim. I can't believe
you.
You don't trust me anymore. Or, oh my, I can't believe how far I've gone. I've got a massive problem. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was hurting so many people. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get this right and to make it right. And I'll do it for as long as it takes. And I don't even know if you'll stay with me or not. In fact, I wouldn't blame you if you left. I hope you'll choose to stay. And I hope that over time I can rebuild that trust.
Do you hear the difference there?
Which one are you getting right now?
The first one.
Yeah. The first one is 100% selfish and self-preserving. It's not even looking at the empathy or the impact on other people because it's so worried about whether or not I'm going to stay in the doghouse. And that's a natural place to be when shame is in the driver's seat. But when shame is in the driver's seat, there is no possibility of trust being reestablished, because shame fuels secrecy and hiding and deception and lack of accountability.
Which, by the way, sets him up to perpetrate again in the future. And that's why, as a woman and as a mom, you're saying, oh my gosh, like you're wanting to talk about trust, but it's like, I don't know if I can, because I don't know what he's capable of doing, how he would perpetrate in the future or whatever, but I don't know if I can trust again, because that type of man that Tyler acted like second there, the man who wants to repair things, the man who's humble and repentant and willing to change, that's a man who has a good chance of not offending again, right? So I want to ask you, Beth, what keeps you staying with him?
Well, we were actually in the process of moving whenever this was discovered, and we had just gotten back from our house in Texas, so we moved from New Mexico, 14 hours, and so we've now been here for 6 months, so I can file for divorce here. He filed right away in New Mexico, and then about 3 weeks later, he actually, whenever he got arrested and all of that, he was like, I'm so sorry. This is not what, and so I wanted to try to give him that chance to really, I thought, okay, maybe this is the pivotal point in our marriage. He's going to, rebuild trust, and, it didn't last for long. It was about a couple of months maybe. And I saw it just slowly deteriorate, where we were doing really good on communication, and I felt sort of like a real closeness and intimacy that hadn't been there for a long time, and not sexual, but just a vulnerability with him, and saying like, she did nothing wrong. I know I may go to jail, but this is not her fault, because my concern was, once all of the chips fall in place, if you do go to jail, are you just going to be so furious with me that, so, or her, in order to, our family is very important. So I'm not willing to sacrifice my marriage or my relationship with my daughter for my marriage. That's just not, or any of our kids. We have 4 children, and I would never want any of them to feel like they're not a part of our family anymore because of an incident like this. If it were his daughter, it's just not, I want all of our kids to feel welcome in our home, and that, so I know the work that it would take to repair the relationships. It's taken some work to repair the relationship with my daughter and myself, because she felt really betrayed whenever I decided to go ahead and move to here and be with him here, because he left the very next day, came back to our house in Texas, and has stayed here since. He was humiliated. We live in a fairly small town. It became very public very quickly, because there were, it was summertime and some things going on where people were gathering. And so, people love to talk, and
people are talking.
So whenever he realized a lot of people knew, he was like, I'm not going back. I'm just staying here. So, I came thinking that, okay, we can, and this was my plan. And,
And your daughter is mad at you for that?
She was for a little while, yes. I think now she kind of understands. We've had the opportunity to talk about it. She's been in counseling also, and she just was like, I don't understand why you would want to stay with someone who's capable of doing something like this. She's also young and never been married. So,
But what she says is
Right.
true, because unless he shifts and unless he changes, like she's got to know that change has happened in order for her to be like, yeah, I can see why mom's staying. Because
well, actually, Brandon,
I
I think Beth actually outlined this pretty well with what we've been talking about with rebuilding trust, is that the reason, and tell me if I'm wrong, but this is what I'm hearing, Beth, is the reason you chose to go with him to Texas was because at the time you chose to go with him, he was in a state of humility, saying, oh my, like I need to get better. I'm so sorry about this. There was humility, there was openness. So in a way, you were actually following your own gut at that point with the recipe of trust. And now you're there, and now you're seeing that maybe there's the effort has started to fade and the humility has started to fade a little bit, which there's a tendency to do. Like there's a tendency to have that happen. And unless it gets corrected and tuned up and reshifted and readjusted, then I imagine that according to the recipe, you're going to start leaning yourself the other way and going, oh, maybe I don't stay in Texas anymore. So I actually hear you work in that process, if I heard you right.
Yes. One thing that's been key to me, and I think I've been real patient with, is that there was a humility in the beginning, like I was wrong for doing this, but there was always this little but with it to kind of negate the responsibility that I feel like, and he's still, I think Brandon, you said he's still in the place of shame. And I really believe that now that I've listened to the podcast for several months and kind of worked through this, and with a counselor also, that he hasn't been able to really take ownership because he's still in the shame process. He's never said, I was watching her in the shower. And he's never owned that.
Never owned it. Yet I had a camera in the bathroom.
It was always to prove to me that she wasn't the kind of person I think she is.
That's not something you guys could have agreed upon and said, hey, why don't we like put a camera somewhere else other than the bathroom together and let's see if it's true or not. It had to be done in secrecy so that he could prove to you something. And it happened to be in the bathroom in the shower.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's disgusting to victim blame. Like we're putting it in here because she's bad and I'm making sure she's not bad. That's not so Beth, I was just telling Tyler, as we record on the podcast, it's kind of hard because we get like 40 minutes with somebody and we don't get weeks in therapy in the chair to like really flush stuff out and build trust and work through the intricacies of the little things. And part of me wants to just scream from the rooftop sometimes and be really blunt and direct because I only have a small chance with you. And I mean, I never, ever tell anybody to divorce or stay. What I tell them to do is really tap into to God and their truths. And make those decisions. What I do though, and Tyler does this too, is we reflect back the realities. And I think what we've talked about today is I really do worry for you if you stay and you keep moving forward without a major shift on his part. And I worry for your family as well, because the reality is there is danger there. There's a man there that's not working recovery that you're hoping that would or will someday, and at the expense of some of your relationship with your daughter and things like that, you're hanging on to that hope. So I know I'm being pretty direct and blunt with you, Beth, but just face the fears and the pains that it might require in order to have the boundaries that you need to have to make sure that you're safe and that your family is safe.
It boils back down to the word you used earlier, Brandon. If both of you guys are living in an integrous way, then there's maybe the option to lean in. And if there's not integrity, then that's when the lean out starts to happen, and it needs to, for the sake of, especially in this case, for the sake of continued safety for everybody involved, including you, Beth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Beth, when I asked Tyler, like, what if you had a camera in the bathroom and you were filming your daughters? And Tyler's response was like, like what? Like, I would never, ever in a million years even think to do that, right? So, I mean, why that response?
I just think,
Tyler,
well,
why that response?
actually, Brandon, let me explain that a little bit. Is that in my brain, that's just like why would we even have to have that conversation, right? It's like when
so
you get to the
gone,
point. So here's how
right?
it works. Like especially with like something like an addiction, is that it's that small flaxen cord that you read about in the Bible that happens a little bit at a time, and it starts with some compulsive behaviors, and then it goes to some pornography, and then it's not really hurting anybody, and then all of a sudden you're doing things that you never thought you would do, and then when you finally get caught or come to your senses, you go, "Whoa, what did I just?"
Legal charge.
Seriously, did I just do that? And for the person who's struggling with the addiction, they don't even see themselves walking off the edge of that cliff. And yet when you hear it out loud, it's like glaring, massive problem. Here we go. And then when it's met with like, well, I didn't really do that. Like I actually was doing it for the right reasons. It's like, no. You've got a massive problem. And this massive problem needs to be owned, and you need to go to work on that massive problem. And no amount of blame towards your wife,
every way possible.
How could you possibly blame your daughter? I mean, the fact that that's still happening shows that the blindness is still there. The blinders have to be ripped off. The denial has to be. There's 10 layers of denial on top of this thing that need to be peeled back over and over again. And the only way that that's going to happen is through accountability. And then to have people in his life that are willing to point those blinders out over and over again to say, hey, like, I don't know that you're actually operating from a place of integrity right now, so.
We've talked a lot about him today. And I think, Beth, the reason is we're just trying to do that reflection back for you. And I know we don't know the whole story of everything, but I do got to say, he just from talking to you for the last little bit, he married a woman with a loving heart and a kind heart and some compassion and some real kindness.
Thanks.
And he's botched that. He's and he's probably scared to lose you. So I sure do appreciate you coming on and being vulnerable and being open about your situation. Beth.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
you guys. If anything that you've heard from Beth rings a bell for you, give her a shout out or share this podcast with somebody else who might be in need of it as well. And again, thank you, Beth. Appreciate your willingness to come on.